Okay, so we just got back from watching Thor Ragnarok. And so we're going to give a review of the movie. It's going to have some spoilers in it. So if you have not seen the movie, please refrain from watching this review. Basically, the movie begins with Thor being captured in some sort of like a fiery pit dungeon thing, and he's being captive by something called Surtur. Right? Surtur
or something.
Yeah.
Like that.
And he has some kind of banter with him early on. And so we were talking about it afterward because we, went to go see the movie, and then, afterward you have your opinions about it. And we felt like even that opening sequence, even like, for instance, just the fight sequence of that was probably the best part of the movie.
To me, it was.
Visually, just how it was set up and everything. And even when I first watched it, I was like, that's pretty good.
Yeah,
like,
I was like, oh my gosh, this is actually going to be good.
Yeah.
Until Thor started talking. And, I'm okay with comedy and everything like that. I'm fine with it. Like, that's cool if that's what you want to do. And one thing, too, that they kind of presented it as a comedy anyway, so I can't really be upset that it was mostly comedy. But to me, it just doesn't fit Thor. And I just think that they are just doing that to give him a boost after his other two movies, and, I guess people don't really connect with Thor the way that he's written and the way that he is. So they're like, you know what? We're just going to make him a complete jokester and the whole thing's going to be a comedy.
Right. And people are gonna love it, and they're gonna laugh, and we did laugh.
I laughed at Jeff Goldblum. That's
Jeff
who I
Goldblum
laughed at.
was hilarious.
He was so funny.
And I told my daughter, I said, as I was watching the movie, what it reminded me of was basically Flash Gordon, the 1980s Flash Gordon with Ming the Merciless, and because it was just a hilarious, fun movie, very colorful, The main character, Flash Gordon, was heroic but funny at the same time. But here's my problem with this. Matter of fact, growing up with my father's comic books, I grew up with Marvel and with DC. There was no difference between the two. Meaning there was no hate. There was no hate. We didn't know the difference between the two. We just knew it was comic books. It wasn't until this new thing started with the DC and the Marvel. But growing up, I loved Thor. I loved the Fantastic Four. The problem with this is, so it's not the fact that I don't like Thor. I love Thor. But my problem with it is that Thor is not comedy relief. That's not his character.
That's not who he is.
That's not who he is.
I'm fine with comedy as long as it's well balanced. I don't want to go to a superhero movie unless I'm going to if it fits their character. If I know, oh man, this character is so funny, this movie is gonna be hilarious, then that's what I'm expecting.
Right.
But also, another thing that I would say, a reason why I don't like comedy-filled superhero movies, especially if they're if it's that way the whole way through, I'm not taking it seriously. I'm not feeling anything.
Which is okay if you go into the movie just thinking that, okay, I'm not gonna take this serious. I'm just gonna have a good time.
Yeah, but I feel like this is what they're trying to make superhero movies to become, and I don't necessarily like that, because when I watch a hero movie or anything that's hero based, I want to be able to connect to that hero on all sorts of different levels. I want to be able to connect with them emotionally, think they're funny, or think that they're a good person, or I want their decisions that they make to affect them in an emotional way. When heroes make decisions, they're making decisions for themselves, but they also have to think of others too, how it affects others.
That's true.
I just didn't feel that.
When we left the movie theater, what's one of the first things that I told you? Do you remember?
No.
I said that's why we need DC, because I felt it's so bubblegum, right? That, yeah, I had a good time. You ever have a good time, but just you don't feel anything, any weight
Yeah,
from it?
I don't feel it. That's a good
Know what
way
I'm saying?
to put it. I didn't feel any weight
Right.
to it. Now, it did have some good plot points.
It did.
You know, onto the good stuff. I loved Hela. I loved her. I thought she was great. And I loved Valkyrie. Valkyrie is the force that she was a part of.
She's one of the Valkyrie.
Yeah, but I loved her as well. To be honest, with the Thor and Hulk fight, it was good.
It was good.
I thought it was going to be better.
Yeah.
To be honest,
I thought visually it was good, and my problem with Marvel is that they pick their spots where they want to be visually good, but they're not always consistent through the whole movie. Like, for instance, I'll give you an example that some of the fight scenes were pretty good, you know, like visually speaking, but then when they have some banter between them, they're just talking, it looks like cheap set designs around you. The costumes were very...
right. And another thing too, a plot point in the movie was, you know, Hela was Odin's firstborn, and she technically had the right to the throne, and she got banished by Odin, and she shared that with Thor, because Thor was cast out, you know, by Odin, and I thought that was a great plot point, but to me, they didn't really
They didn't explore that. They didn't go back to how Thor felt about it.
Right, how Thor felt when
being
that
banished.
happened,
Yeah.
about being banished, and how they kind of have that connection
Right,
going, you
between
know,
the
type
two.
of thing.
Yeah.
You didn't feel that.
Right.
It was kind of like Thor mentions it, like, you know, I was cast out too,
Right.
like, you know, type of thing.
Right. And the fact that he's the god of thunder, all of a sudden now he can harness lightning, in that his father, Odin, basically told him, because he lost his hammer, we all saw that from the trailers, how she just smashed... Doesn't really explain how she can do that, but she smashed his hammer, and what his father was telling him is that he doesn't need his hammer. His hammer was basically just a channel, something to focus the lightning. Once he harnessed the lightning, but we know that the hammer does more than that, right? Because he can throw the hammer, he can fly with the hammer, so it's not just about harnessing the lightning, but his father was basically telling him is that you're using the hammer as a crutch. I thought that was a good
That
point
was a very good point.
in the movie, because it shows you about the power within yourself, you know, and stop looking for other things as an excuse. You know, you can do this, is basically what his father's telling him. The things that I don't like is that they don't have to explain certain things. Like, for instance, they really don't explain how the Hulk got there.
Not really, yeah.
Thor's kind of talking to the Hulk, and
Yeah.
he's like, you know, the Quinjet, yes, and boom, you know, kind of just, okay, so the Quinjet was flying on Earth, and it hit a wormhole, and it brought you to this planet. They don't, that's kind of what they insinuated, but I mean, they feel as though they don't have to explain certain things. For instance, Hela, right? She's stronger than Thor, right? Now, some people out there may know the mythology of it. Actually, in the mythology, Hela is Loki's daughter. It's not Odin's. It's not. They kind of changed this. Loki in the mythology, Loki is her father, which makes sense, right? Yeah. He's kind of right. But in this, okay, so she ends up being Odin's daughter, but they don't really explain why is she stronger than Thor. Thor is the strongest Asgardian. Period. When Odin goes into the Odin sleep, Thor protects Asgard. He's the strongest, right? But they don't really explain why she's more powerful, why she's stronger. She just is. She was the first one. She was before them.
That was her only thing. She was the first.
She was his executioner, Odin's executioner, you know, type thing. But they don't really. So there's certain things in there that they're just saying, hey, we're just gonna have a blast. We're just gonna have a good time, have a nice ride with us. But we don't really have to explain certain things. We're just going to do things. As the Joker would say. Even towards the end, I thought the beginning fight down below was actually better than the third act. When he just kind of, because you know, this is the end. This is the end of Asgard. This is Ragnarok. The end of times for them.
Can I just say one thing about Asgard? To me, I don't know if anybody really cared about Asgard. You know, to me, even in the first Thor movie, they didn't really explore Asgard as a planet or as a realm, you know,
Right.
like really build up the people, like, oh, you know, I care about these people, or, you know, like, I don't know, I didn't really get the culture and, you know, like, so when Asgard...
But now they're expecting you to feel for them.
For the people, like, all the people's out.
Right.
Okay, I didn't care about them anyway, like, you know, and so... to me, they could have done a better job, because now this movie is all about Asgard, the future of Asgard, you know. So like, you know, I just feel like people that are coming to see the movie, oh, Asgard, they're like, oh,
right,
okay.
right. You know, and this is kind of a, you know, a big spoiler. So when Hela comes to Asgard, she just discards the Warriors 3. Volstagg, and I forget the other guy with the sword.
Yeah.
But the three of them, just like they never existed.
Like that.
Like they never existed, you know? It kind of reminds me of the
Star Wars.
Star Wars when Mace Windu comes to see Palpatine, and he
just boom, all those masters.
It's almost like the director said, listen, we don't have time.
Right.
And we've got to just get rid of these people.
Yeah.
You know, but they've been in the other two movies. Like there's you should feel something for them. You felt nothing for them, you know? It was just basically about Thor going through this adventure, which, you know, you're talking about the end of Asgard, yet it was the funniest Marvel movie, you know? It was supposed to be really serious and deep because it was the end of their world, yet you never felt that because it was so much comedy.
But,
you know?
I mean, to me, this movie, Thor Ragnarok, was to give Thor a boost.
Yes.
It was basically
and I think,
to get
I think
people
it will. To like him.
To like him.
They're just appealing to the mainstream.
Right.
Right? So when you do that, it's almost like pop music.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like
you're just making it for the masses.
You just make it for the masses. You package it a certain way. You know how to package it. You know what buttons to press, and then you just put it out there, right? And that's what they do. Now, my thing is, I love the Thor character, so it's not a knock on Marvel or Marvel characters. Like I said, was raised during a time when comic books was Marvel and DC, and there was no difference between the two. You know, look, I came up with the Super Friends, right? The Super Friends, and then the Amazing Spider-Man. You know, so I didn't see the difference between the two. You know, I just loved the characters for who they were.
Yeah.
So this is not a knock on Marvel. I'm just giving my unbiased opinion because I like the Thor character, and even though I know it's going to do well, these are some observations and some criticisms of the movie, right? But there are also some bright spots, like the comedy was good, visually it was good. Some characters were good, like the girl from the Valkyrie. We liked her. You know, I mean, I always liked Chris Hemsworth. The only thing about it is that, like I said, Thor is not comedy relief. So going into the movie, you're gonna like it. I mean, it's not. We said it's not a bad movie. It's just not a great movie.
It's not 96%.
No, it's not 96%.
It's not 96%.
No, it's not. It's not that. And so there are things that I loved about it. Like, for instance, I loved Hela too. I thought she was good. I thought the Hulk was hilarious. Jeff Goldblum was hilarious as the Grand Master.
I loved it.
In the critics' reviews, they're saying it's the funniest Marvel movie ever. It's hilarious. That's basically the consensus of the movie.
That's
right?
basically the consensus of the movie, but my argument to that would be like, you know, that's not what makes a movie great.
Yeah.
You know?
Tell us what you think when you go see the movie. This is our review. We hope that you like our review. Please comment below, subscribe, like, and we'll see you until next time.
Bye.
Bye.